This is a story about castaways. They're here for a long, long time. They have to make the best of things. It's an uphill climb. Good morning. I am going to take care of my waterfowl, and I wanted to share a little story with y'all about religious refugees. And I'm hoping that you'll stick around for the whole tale, because they might surprise you in the end. So let's start with our refugees. They are a minority populace in a country where religious freedom is oppressed. And they have to meet in secret. They are reading their religious text in their own language, which is outlawed. And they are doing that without a government representative being present, which is also against the law. In the course of their travels, they are arrested at least 2 times. They are imprisoned, their goods are confiscated, and for one of the arrest times, they are separated as families. The males go to one place. They actually leave the country because they're being chased, and I'm putting my gloves on, that's why I'm shaking it around, sorry. Because of the oppression, they're actually trying to leave the country to go to a friendly country where religious freedom is allowed. And they are separated from their wives. And so their wives are imprisoned again without them for a matter of months. Finally, I think someone who's in the country still friendly to their cause gets the ladies released, and they join their husbands in this neutral country. The country they flee to is the only one in their surrounding area that allows people to have a choice of their religion. Meanwhile, the surrounding countries, including the one they left, are severely oppressing people of other religious beliefs. And there's 2 major religions going on at the time. And if you're of the wrong religion in these countries, you can be burned at the stake, you can be drawn and quartered, you can be beheaded. It's bad. And that's why our religious refugees flee. And while they're in this neutral country, they are not legal citizens. They are illegals. And so they are forced to work, all of them, including their children, because they are getting paid wages of an illegal immigrant. They are not paid like a citizen. All right. So are you guessing who these people are yet? Are you saying they're Muslims who have fled to Europe? Are you saying they are Buddhists who have left a communist regime? Are you saying they are, let's see, I'm trying to think of some other people. I've already talked about the Buddhists. Okay, well, let's leave it at that. All right, is that who you're guessing? Because that's not them. So after spending some time in this foreign country, the group decides they want to try to find a place where they can actually live as citizens and not be illegal and have a little bit less economic burden on themselves. And so what they do is they split their congregation in half, and the actual pastor, the head man, the equivalent of the chief of the tribe, decides he's going to stay where he is because he's older, and he's going to choose volunteers, or, you know, if you're chosen, you're not a volunteer. Volunteers are going to step forward, and they are going to try to establish a new home. They're going to try to find a place where they can be exercise their freedom of religion, exercise their beliefs as they see them, and also not be right on the edge of an entire continent that's unfriendly to them. And there are people trying to find them from their old country. They're trying to hunt them down, arrest them, and take them back. So they pool all their money, and they buy a couple of boats in bad shape, and they hire a captain who is going to take them. And they have to partner up with a financial institution in order to be able to fund this trip. So they make a pact with another group who are businessmen, because you know businessmen have money and these guys want to make money. So they partner up and they set off on their voyage, and they haven't even left yet when one of the ships is in such bad shape that it has to go back into port. They have to sell half the stuff they're bringing with them to pay for repairs, and then they set out. And they land in a country. They sail, for 3 months or so. And they land in a country that is in the middle of, not the middle of, but in winter. It's cold. Nothing's being produced by the land. And they land on that shore, and they're already short of food because they've had to spend a lot of their food to make repairs to the ship. And their goods are also damaged on the trip over. So they arrive and they don't have a lot to eat. And even before they get off the ship, somebody jumps off ship, commits suicide, and drowns at very first. They park the ship, and that night somebody dies. And it's somebody's wife. It's not a dude. She jumps ship, she drowns. Have you figured out who these people are yet? Are you saying to yourself, well, I don't want them landing on my shore. They don't sound like they know what they're doing and whatever. They're not very well prepared. Or are you thinking, wow, it sounds like they've had kind of a hard time. I hope they make it. So when they land, the first thing they do is start wandering around, looking, where are we? What's going on? Like I said, it's cold, it's snowy. The land is not producing any food for them. And they find a home site that's been abandoned, not knowing, but I think they do find some corpses. They find some corpses, and they figure out a lot of people have died there, but not recently. Not like a battle just happened and there's bodies all over the ground. It's more like plague went through, and so the general populace has, enough of them have died off that they've moved. They aren't staying in their places where they normally were. And so they find a cache of food. Hey! Shush up! They find a cache of food and they take it. And after they take it, they think, hey, we've got religious beliefs. We're supposed to be adhering to some rules. This is bad. So they leave like a note, and they intend to pay that stuff back. They understand theft is wrong, and they do eventually make good on that borrowing. Uh-oh. I've released the quackings. I guess I better get some food up for them. Well, now I'm going to have to shout. Got a crowd. They love history. They love talking about stuff like that, don't you guys? Huh? Whoops. Okay. So they wander around, and meanwhile, to their west, is the chief of the people who've had this plague come through, and his group used to be really big, and he was a kind of a power player in his area, and because of this plague, his group is greatly reduced. And so to his west is another group, a kind of aggressive group of people, and they're making noises that they're going to come and take his people over. They're just going to absorb his tribe into their tribe. And he's not happy about that. He doesn't really like this other group. They have things in common, but they're just not his kind of people. And so he's sort of desperate. And he's trying to figure out how he's going to survive as a tribe. And then in his area, somebody wanders upon this group of refugees and says, hey, there's a new group in town. They've come, on this big wooden ship. They've parked in the bay, and they don't look like they're doing real well. And there happens to be a local guy who has visited their country in the past and can speak their language. And that fella visits this chief and says, hey, I can go talk to them. I know how to speak to them. And so this chief says, oh yeah, come on, you're gonna do this thing for me. And they approach this new group, these religious refugees who are starving and cold and in a strange place. And the chief's motive is that he wants them as an ally. Because this other dude, the interpreter, has told him, hey, they're starving and whatever, but the place they come from is doing pretty well. And if we make friends with these guys, it may help us out in a power play, because where they come from is a big, strong country. And so this local chief is thinking, great, I'll get some powerful allies. My enemies to the west won't be able to absorb my tribe, and I will survive. And so he makes a friendship with these religious refugees. I'm ready to reveal to you who these people are, but I really want to know what you would do in this situation. If you're the new strangers and a friendly local comes up and says, hey, I can help you out, I can take care of you, I can show you food to eat, and I can show you things to hunt and help you make shelters and stuff like that, would you take his hand of friendship? And if you were the refugees, would you take his friendship? If you were in either leader's position, would you make that pact? You've got an enemy to your west who's actively said they want to absorb your group, and you're kind of the farthest east bunch. There's no allies to your east, and your allies to the north are also not your friends. You're not going to make a pact with them. All right, so now that I've asked you the question, and crew members, I really want to hear your answers on this without you pre-guessing who everybody was. It was the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims were the religious refugees. Squanto was the interpreter, and Massasoit and the Wampanoags are the group whose numbers have been reduced by a plague. They think it might have been meningitis. And the Narragansetts are the ones to their west. And they've landed in November in Massachusetts. No! Bad dogs! Cut it out! No! Sorry. That little not friendly interference here. Hey, cut it out! Get! Leave that cat alone. What do you guys think? This is the real history of how Thanksgiving came about, because that meal was a year later, after the Wampanoags had made friendship with the Pilgrims and vice versa, and half the Pilgrims died that winter. So of the, I think there were 100 people on the ship. That means only 50 are left alive. Without the friendship of the Wampanoags, those Pilgrims probably wouldn't have made it. They'd have had, another year of disease and nominal crop production, because half their number were those businessmen and they didn't want to do any work. They probably would have died. So there may be a whole country out there of natives saying, Wampanoags, you idiots, you extended this freedom and whatever. But this country is the greatest country on the planet. And without the Wampanoags' help, it wouldn't have happened. So I say thank you. Thank you to the natives who took in strangers and befriended them. And I hope you enjoy your meal. That meal is based on the meal that they ate 400 years ago. All right, bless you. Shalom.